From Super League to Olympic distance to age group world records to Kona. Go longer with the right fuel at the right time with SFuels.
It's Aloha Thursday, another swim, bike, and run day. Chee-hoo! Cause it's breakfast with Bob.
Poncho Man, everybody. Welcome to our 11th year. Breakfast with Bob from beautiful Huggos on the Rocks. My name is Bob Babbitt. We're brought to you by Master Spas, SFuels Go Longer, HOKA Let's Fly, Form Smart Swim Goggles, Quintanaroo, Zoot, the original triathlon brand, and of course our Challenged Athletes Foundation. Our next guest is a rookie here in Kona, but he races from the front all the time, coming off a huge win at Challenge Roth. Mr. Magnus Ditlev, everybody. How you doing, Magnus?
Thank you. Thanks, Bob, and thanks for having me. I believe we've talked quite a few times at some pretty cool places, but this one is definitely
This is pretty the best, right?
Very special.
Well, I remember the first time we got, I think it might be Daytona,
Yeah,
Miami.
I think Daytona. Yeah.
And what impressed me right away, because I think you were like 22 years old at the time, you just went off the front, right?
Yeah, has usually been my my tactic to try and use the bike strength to my advantage. So that's how I
That's how you race.
Yeah.
You go off the front.
Yeah.
And the cool part is, it doesn't matter if it's Jan Frodeno or if it's Lionel Sanders, you're not intimidated by the other guys. Because I've seen over the years, a lot of people will sit back and go, oh, that's Jan Frodeno, I shouldn't be going by him. Where that doesn't seem to affect you at all.
Well, I had the thought the first time I raced against Jan in Miami that, okay, if you're leading in front of Jan, then you are doing something horribly wrong because he's always ends up winning. But I try to stick to my own plan and focus on my own small tasks during the race, and then not just focus too much about what other people are doing in the race.
I always find it really gutsy when people go to the lead like that, because I mean, you've had issues. Sometimes you have a nutrition thing, something like that, but you don't really know until you do it, right?
Yeah.
And the camera's on you when you're leading, so when you have nutrition issues and have to walk or whatever, people see that, but you've never been intimidated by that.
No, and I think the times I've been struggling with cramps or walking on the run is probably the races I've learned the most. So I think my coach and I have been quite good at having an experience like that and then actually learning from it and not doing the same mistake over and over again, but trying to develop and see what we can take out of each situation.
So this year you had Ironman Texas, and you've got a huge lead on the bike. And then what? Bike issues?
Puncture. Not just a small puncture, like a huge cut in my tire, so I couldn't just replace the tube. Many people accused me for being extremely slow at changing tubes, but it was actually because I had to get and wait for a new tire to arrive from neutral support. So so it took 9 minutes, I think, at the side of the road.
So now you're starting the run with Ben Hoffman.
Yeah.
In the last 10K, you guys were side by side.
Yeah, so he was. We were starting in T2 basically together, and then he was running. I was looking at my watch, and I was thinking, okay, we are going 2:36 pace at the moment, and I knew I thought it was out of this world for me since it was my first full distance ever. And then around 21 kilometers, I started seeing him coming a little bit back to me again, which I thought was weird because he's usually very consistent and tough as nails on the marathon. And then I think I caught him at 32 kilometers or something like that, and I was starting. It was very unknown territory for me since I have never been racing an Ironman before, so I was really getting nervous, and I started having problems lifting my legs, and so and then I decided, instead of just trying to attack straight away, just to get some more new nutrition on board and take a breath behind him. And then I actually started feeling really good just by staying with him for 5 minutes. So I started attacking him, and then he attacked me straight away afterwards. I attacked him, and then he attacked me for the second time. And I think after 3 or 4 attacks like that, we pretty much realized that it would be impossible to get away from each other, and we were just, for the rest of the run, running side by side, cruising to the finish line. And I think we both knew that it would come down to the last kilometer.
And having a race have you had many races like that?
No, never. Never tried that before. And I could feel that he was a bit more experienced and
Yes.
also some of the mind games out there. And he was just, I don't think he ever looked at me it felt like I wasn't there for him. So he was really just trying to freeze me out and look like he had everything under control.
But you learned from that.
Yeah,
You
really.
needed that experience. I mean, you
Yeah.
could have just won the race from the front, but at the end of the day, you gained something that you can use in other races.
You know, I think it was actually good for me because it's probably the breakthrough run of my life, running a 240.
40, 56.
In Texas, which is not as hot and humid as here, but something that is very close to Kona conditions. And I think had I just had a 9-minute lead in T2, I probably would have gone more steady
250.
and didn't risk, like when I was running out with Ben Hoffman, I was like, okay, let's race now and let's see how long it it lasts. And then I pulled something out of myself that we knew I had a potential to do it, but actually doing it in the first place is something really difficult, I think.
So one of my favorite races in the world is Challenge Roth. Love that race. And I was so excited to see you win that. And when I look at the 50, 44, 401, 56, 240, 22, 735, 48, that's impressive across the board. Do you look at that as probably your most complete race?
Yeah, it was just, I know it's difficult to talk about a perfect day in triathlon, but it's definitely the one that comes closest to a perfect day for me and the perfect race for me. I exited the swim it was only Jan and Maurice Clavel that was ahead, and they only had 1:20, I think. So it was a perfect situation for me out of the water. I only had a problem that Patrick was with me.
Yes.
So I had to search really hard the first 40 minutes on the bike to try to bridge the gap to Jan and not
get rid of Patrick.
and not bring Patrick along. So I think I was actually pushing more power the first 40 minutes than I would do in a half distance.
What were you pushing?
I was pushing, it sounds ridiculous, but close to 400 watts.
400 watts,
It's,
okay,
yeah.
That's what we do every day.
It's basically what I can push in an hour almost.
Yeah.
Like a little less than what I can push in an hour, and doing that in an Ironman is not the smartest move, but I took a chance to, because I knew it would be a really important moment if I could get a gap on Patrick and still bridge to Jan. So it was the right move, but it was certainly also a risky one.
So when at that point you don't know that Jan can't run.
No.
Right? Even though we'd seen a lot of his posts, and they showed him cycling, they showed him swimming, they didn't show him running much. So you started going, I wonder if he's okay. When did you know that he was out?
So we were riding, and he was actually the last part riding extremely fast, and I had difficulty just staying with him. So he was for sure really fit, and I was not. It was weird because you would think that it's a difficult situation to enter T2 with Jan, but I wasn't. Like, of course, I was worried, but it was also a moment I had really been looking forward to see if measure myself against him on the run, and I wasn't too stressing about not gapping him going into T2, and as he was riding so fast, it was not possible for me to do that. So I was actually pretty pleased with the situation into T2, and then he just took off like a rocket out of on the run course. I think the first 4 kilometers he ran was like 70.3 pace or something like that, and then all of a sudden he was just standing on the side of the road. So that was a big shift in my mindset I had to deal with, because I was running, he had a gap out of me because he didn't put socks on.
Right.
So he was maybe running 50 meters in front of me, and I could see his back the whole time. And then from just being focused on his his back, and then suddenly you're leading one of the biggest races in the world with more than 14 minutes. It was just a crazy day.
That is so wild. And so then, was it hard? Because obviously you wanted to race Jan. You wanted to be side by side, similar to a Ben Hoffman thing, and see if we can be side by side. Was there a point where you're thinking, that's sort of a bummer, now I'm by myself?
Yeah, straight away I thought it was a bummer. I almost stopped and begged him to continue because I had it was like a dream for me to have this battle, and then all of a sudden it was gone, and I had to find some new ways of motivating myself to keep pushing.
the cool part about that race is you finish into a little stadium
Yeah.
that they build. Like the week before, it's just an empty lot. There's
Yeah.
grass, and now there's a stadium with 5,000 people going crazy. What was that moment like for you?
Yeah, not just the finish line, but throughout the whole day, it was
Yes.
just like they say it's the biggest sporting event measured on number of spectators out on the course in the world. I don't know if that's true or not, but
It's close.
For
yeah.
my experience, like straight we started swimming in the channel, and I could hear people clapping and screaming my name when I was swimming. I've never heard that before in a swim, so that was crazy. And then out on the bike course, they have all these famous hills and hotspots. Solar Hill, for instance, and I barely could ride my bike up because people were just touching my the side of my my
Felt like
arms.
the Tour de France.
Yeah, it was. And the funny thing was that the Tour de France was actually taking place in Copenhagen, where I live at that time. So I was a little bit bummed that I wasn't able to experience that. But then I got to Roth, and I felt it was almost.
You were in the Tour de France.
I was in the Tour de France. Yeah, it was crazy.
That is cool. And so then PTO US Open. And at the PTO US Open, you've got a lot of folks who are, because it's a little less than a 70.3, you've got some of the shorter distance folks, and you got second there to Colin, who had a great race.
Yeah.
But you had to take something positive away from that as well.
Yeah, so it was really a positive experience for me. I think I've proven myself 2 times now on the full distance that I'm very, I can put together a complete race, but I still think I lacked the half, and then the PTO is a little bit shorter, and then I had a big potential there that I had not shown yet, and
Right.
then in Dallas it's very difficult. It was some difficult conditions, actually. It was 36 degrees or something like that, so much warmer than here.
Yes.
And the humidity was not as high as here, but still I believe it was overall maybe an even hotter race. So it was a really good test, and also a really good race for me to see where the heat prep was going, and just the shape before doing Kona.
How have you changed? Because you, like in some of those early races, you did have nutrition issues. If you feel like you got a handle on that?
Yeah, so that I think it comes back to what I said earlier, that we try to analyze every time I have a bad experience, for instance, with cramps in my legs or nutritional cramps in the stomach. Then I have a really good coach that takes care of me, and we have started working more closely with some experts from the Danish. It's called Team Denmark, so they know everything about heat adaptations and nutritional stuff, and so we try to maybe go a little bit more scientific to the task than more people do, and I still feel that really works well for me.
We usually say it's really difficult for somebody to win their first time here.
Yep.
But, you've got Gustav and Christian and Colin. There's so many people, yourself, who are first timers here. What do you think of the course? I'm sure you spent some time on the course, and you feel that it suits you.
Yeah, I feel it suits me quite well, actually. I would have liked maybe a little more elevation on the
Right.
bike course, but if the wind really blows, then that could make up for some of it. But the bike course is actually harder than I had expected.
There's a lot of rollers.
And what you see when you see the broadcast, it doesn't look that hilly as it is, but especially down to when you're climbing up Harvey and going back again, and also just on the way back on the Queen K, it goes just up and down the whole way. And I think if you have a bad day, then it can be a really lonely and tough ride back from Harvey.
Christian was saying yesterday, when you're coming along Queen Highway, you keep thinking over the next rise, you'll see the airport.
Yeah,
the next rise, it's like, where is it?
It just continues and continues. So I think I can't see why there shouldn't be some quite large gaps, especially if the wind blows.
What's fascinating is we haven't raced here since 2019. And back in 2019, if someone went sub 8 hours, that was a big thing. Now, most races, people are going sub 8 hours.
Yeah.
So we think there could be a chance this record goes down. What do you think?
I think if it's calm conditions, then the record will fall for sure.
Yes.
That's I'm definitely 100% sure of that. But if the wind blows like it can be really windy here, I
Yes.
experienced that myself the other day, and then it's difficult to predict how much it affects the overall times. So yeah.
But the way you ride, you want it to blow.
Yeah, I wanted to blow real bad, so I've sort of optimized my setup on the bike towards crosswind. So
Yes.
I believe if there is a crosswind, then I will be quite fast.
I love it. Magnus, and what are your? Can you win here?
That's what I'm racing for. So I'll try to race for the win, and if I end up winning or not, but it's what I'm always aiming for. And of course, I know it's going to be extremely difficult. There are probably more than 10 guys that say they want
Yes.
to win and can win on paper. So I don't try to focus too much on necessarily the win, but like more during the race executing all my small tasks and nailing the nutrition and the pacing plan and the strategies around that. And then I know if I do that, then I will end up in a good spot.
Love it. Magnus Ditlev has been our guest. Everybody, how about a round of applause for Mr. Magnus Ditlev. Poncho Man, take us out.
Thanks, Bob.
It's Aloha Thursday, another swim, bike, and run day. Cause it's breakfast with Bob.
Thank you, Poncho Man. Yo.
Thank you.